Today, we're going to create a dynamic bricks and stucco shader. Let's go. Our goal for today is going to be to create this shader here, which allows us to blend an underlayer of bricks with this coating of stucco materials that we've got. And it also has a little bit of a transition here where we go from the material that's underneath the stucco transitioning to the bricks. Before I get into showing you how the shader is created, the first thing that we need to do is download a couple of texture sets. And so for that, I'm going to go to Quixel Bridge. So here we are in Bridge, and I can show you the texture sets I used. Of course, you're welcome to get your stucco textures and your brick textures from whatever source you're most comfortable with using. But I'm using Bridge today, and I grabbed this stucco material here and this brick material here. We can take a look at these in 3D thanks to the Bridge viewer. So here's my stucco, and here are my bricks. I really like the nice color contrast between these bricks and the stucco. It makes the bricks kind of pop when they get uncovered. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is bring these texture sets into Photoshop and process them just a little bit. I went ahead and downloaded textures here. And if we take a look at my download settings, I downloaded albedo, cavity, normal, displacement, AO, and roughness for each of these. And I didn't bring them directly into Unreal because I wanted to pack them together a little bit so that I could control how the masks are packed together. It's always more efficient if you can group your textures into as few textures as possible. So let me show you what I did there in Photoshop. So here are the textures that I downloaded from Bridge. And by the way, I'm not using the version of Bridge that's built into Unreal 5. I'm using the standalone version because it allows me to process the textures independently of Unreal. Okay, so here is my diffuse color texture, my normal map. And then this third texture here is my mask texture. And I have the ambient occlusion in the red channel. I have the height map data packed into the green channel, and the blue channel has my roughness or smoothness. In this case, we're looking at smoothness, but for Unreal, I inverted it to be roughness. So I've named this texture OHS for occlusion, height, and smoothness. And then for the Unreal version, I named it OHR for occlusion, height, and roughness, obviously. And then for my stucco, I've got my color texture, my normal, and then my OHS texture here for my occlusion, my height, and my smoothness. Now let's take a look at these textures in Unreal. So we'll bring up Unreal here. I've got my diffuse texture. And be sure that sRGB is on for the diffuse. I've got my normal map. And for the normal map, it's really important for Unreal that the green channel look like it's being lit from below. So you can see here the bottom edges of the bricks are green. And if you need to, you may need to come down here to this checkbox that says Flip Green Channel. By default, the data that you get from Quixel is going to be green positive like this, and that's what you need for Unity, but not for Unreal. So we need to make sure that we click this flip the green channel button so that the bricks look like they're lit from underneath in the green channel. And then obviously here is my mask channel. I have my occlusion, I have my height, and I have my roughness here in the blue channel. All right. And then I have the same thing for the stucco textures. Make sure for the normal map, for both of them, you have the compression settings set to normal map. And for the occlusion, height, and roughness, you want to make sure that sRGB is off. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in and start making our material now. So I'll open up my content drawer. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, right click and pick material. And I'm going to call this bricks with stucco. And there it is. I'll open it up, and we need to get our textures in here first. So I'll open up my content drawer again and grab my texture. All right, so here are my textures for my bricks. I can just select them here and drag them into my material and just kind of space them out a little bit. Color, normal, and masks. And now I need the textures for the stucco. And here are my stucco textures, color, normal, and mask. So I'll just drag those in as well. All right, now that I'm going to just kind of arrange them here, the brick material is going to be on the bottom and the stucco material is going to be on the top. So I'm going to arrange them like this with bricks and then stucco color and bricks and then stucco normal. And then finally, bricks and then stucco masks. And just to start out here, I'm going to grab my brick color and wire it into base color, my brick normal and wire it into base normal, and my brick masks. And for the masks, I have ambient occlusion, I have height, which I'm going to use a little bit later, and I also have roughness in the blue channel, so I'm going to wire that into roughness. And there you can see I have a nice brick material. I haven't introduced the stucco yet, obviously. Now, for this viewport here, I like to come up here and set my field of view to 50. I just feel like it gives a little bit better representation of what's going on. When I have a field of view of 90, it really distorts things. So I'm just going to set this to 50. Okay, if we want to take a look at our stucco material, we can wire color in here. We can wire our normal in here. And for the masks, we can wire our occlusion here and our roughness here. So this is what our stucco material looks like. And one thing that I'm noticing is that the scale may be a little bit off. This looks like it's meant to be viewed a little bit closer. If we take a look back in Bridge again, you can see that the scale of my bricks is set to 2 by 2 meters. And the scale of my stucco is set to 0.35 meters. So it's about 1/3 of a meter. And so there's a difference of 6 times in the scale between the brick material and the stucco material. So what I need to do first is add a texture coordinate node. And we're going to multiply our texture coordinates by 6. So I'll just add a multiply by 6. And for our stucco, we're going to use these UVs instead of the base UVs, which will give us a little bit better. It'll basically set the stucco to the correct scale for the brick. So here now you can see I zoom in close and get the nice details on the stucco. And then when I zoom out, let's just pretend for now that our preview cube here is 2 meters. And I can get the 2 meter material when I've got my bricks plugged in. And I can get the stucco tiling correctly so that it works right for a material that is 2 meters in size. All right, so the next thing that I need to do is blend between these two different materials. So for that, I'm going to use a linear interpolate node. And so we're going to blend between our bricks and our stucco. There's our color blend and our normal blend. And we also need a blend between our mask textures. So we're going to blend those as well. And now we need some kind of mask here to plug into our lerp values into the alpha pin to determine where we're blending between the bricks and the stucco. And for right now, what I'm going to do is just use this texture coordinate node, because what it gives us is a nice gradient from black to white across from left to right on my material. So I'll grab a texture coordinate node, use a component mask node, and just grab the red channel. And what this is going to do is just give me a nice gradient from black to white. If I plug this into my color socket, yeah, you can see that I've got my gradient going from black on the left to white on the right. And I can just use this to blend between my materials. Now, obviously, materials are not going to... This is going to give me kind of a transparent look, which is going to be pretty wrong. But we're going to improve this kind of as we go along. So here's my occlusion coming out of my mask texture, and then my roughness coming out of my mask texture. All right, so now you have a nice transparent blend between bricks and stucco. And we need to improve this a little bit because obviously stucco is not transparent like that. So let's come down here and work on our mask a little bit. All right, so I'm going to hold down the 1 key and click, and I'm going to give this a value of -0.5. And I'm going to multiply this by a value that we can use to tweak this later on. I think I'm just for now, I'm going to leave this value at 2. This is a parameter that we can control or expose later on, but I'm just going to hard code it to 2 for now. And now I'm going to wire my mask value in. Actually, let me add another multiply here. So what we're doing is we're going to increase the contrast of our incoming mask using a couple of nodes down here. So I'm going to lerp between this value and my height map. So here's my brick masks texture. And I've got the height map stored in the green channel there. So I'm going to wire that into my lerp down here. So I'm blending between the height map and this value coming in here based on this multiply here. And so now if we take a look at our result here, you can see that I'm increasing the contrast a little bit, and I'm also factoring in my height map. So it's going to expose the little cracks and crevices in the brick and allow the stucco to be applied on the tops of the bricks first, and then kind of get down into the cracks and crevices later. So if we take this mask and we use this instead of our nice and smooth mask we had before, now what you're going to see is we're using our height. Oh, and we need to saturate that. We get weird results when we go above 1 or below 0 with lerp. So let's go ahead and add that saturate. Yeah, there we go. So now we're using our height mask or our height map to control the blending, and it kind of factors in where those cracks and crevices in the bricks are. It gives us a little bit better blend. However, there's still this transparent look that we're getting here, and we need to fix that. So let's go ahead and create some contrast in our map, in our mask rather. And the way that we're going to do that is with another lerp. Actually, I'll just copy and paste this one, and we're going to wire this into our alpha, and then we're going to lerp between two vec2 values. So I'm going to hold down the 2 key and click, and again and click. And this first one, I'm going to give it a value of -15, -15. And for the second one, I'm going to give it a value of 15 and 10. So instead of lerping between 0 and 1 or a range like that, we're lerping between these larger values. And what that does is it increases the contrast of our map. So if I wire this in now, okay, now you can see I've got these 2 different color tones going on, and I've increased this contrast. So let's go ahead and add a component mask here. We're just going to grab one of these. I've got 2 colors going on here in my lerp. We're just going to grab one of them for now. So I'll just grab the red one and wire that into my saturate. And now you can see, because I'm lerping between this -15 and +15, I've got this really big range, and it forces my values away from 0, further and further away. And then when I apply this saturate here at the end, all my really high numbers above 1 and all my really low numbers below 0 get clamped between 0 and 1. That's what the saturate is doing. And it basically throws those high numbers out. And the result is that I've increased the contrast of my mask. And I've actually created two masks in one with this operation because I'm lerping between -15 and 15 here in the first channel. And in the second channel, I'm lerping between -15 and 10. And so I've got one mask that's just a little bit bigger or that's just a little bit further along than the other one. And what I want to do for the mask that I have for now actually is use this green channel. And that will give my my mask that's just slightly more eroded away. All right, so now I've got bricks here, I've got stucco here, and I'm ready to create for a nice little. Oh, you know what? There is one other thing that I can do to improve my stucco. I don't know if you noticed here, but the bricks material has some really nice brick texture going on. But for the stucco, my normal map over here is kind of flat. I mean, it does have these really tight stucco details on it, but kind of getting out to this range here, my normal map looks quite flat. And so what I can do to improve that is introduce a little bit of the normal map from the bricks to the normal map of the stucco. So let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is add a blend angle correct normals, and I'm going to call my bricks normal map my base normal and my stucco normal map my additional normal. And now I can add another lerp here, and I'm going to lerp between my blended normals and my stucco normal using a hard-coded value. So I hope you can see what I'm doing here. Basically, this normal here is a combination of the two normals. And then this normal here, the normal passed into the lerp B socket, is just the stucco normal by itself. So now I can control how much of the two normals together I'm blending in. So I'm going to give this a value of 0.9 for the alpha input. And now, instead of just the plain stucco normal, I'm going to wire this in for the stucco normal. And what I get is just a little bit of the bricks normals wired in there as well. And I can use this hard-coded value here. Like if I give it a value of 0.5, for example, now you can see there's a lot more of the bricks normal coming through there. But if I give it a value of like 0.8, now it's mostly stucco, but hopefully you can see that there's just like a subtle amount of underlying bricks normal mixed in there to kind of give it some nice, a little bit better shape than you get with just a flat stucco texture. All right, the last thing that we want to do is take advantage of the fact that we've created our two different masks here to add a little bit of transition here where we're going from the stucco to the bricks. So in order to do that, I'm going to come up here to our color texture, and I'm going to add another color value here. This is a color that I selected because it's sort of halfway between the brick color and the stucco color. And so what I can do with this is add in a lerp. Using lots of linear interpolates today. So I'm going to make this my top color for B, and I'm going to make my bricks color here my lerp input A. And then I'm going to blend between those two based on my mask down here. But what I want to do is I want to get the red channel mask, and I want to subtract it from the green channel mask. So going to take red and green and subtract them. And then we'll saturate the result just to be safe. But what this is going to do is it's going to give us a mask. Looks like I made a mistake. I actually need to put my saturate here in between these. So I'm going to wire the result of my lerp here into here, and then I'm going to take my saturate out of here. And now I can use my green channel here to blend between the masks and to blend between the normals and to blend between the colors. And then now that we've subtracted the red mask or the green mask from the red mask, what we get here is just that edge. And this is the mask that we can use to blend between our color and our kind of transition color up here. So I'll bring this up here and plug that into our alpha. So if we take a look at this color now, what we're going to get is the bricks with that transition color where they belong. And so instead of blending between the bricks and the stucco, I'm going to blend between the bricks plus the transition color. Cool, so now we have our stucco and our bricks with our transition color in between. All right, now this whole time we've been using this, this UV gradient down here as our input, and it's giving this gradient from kind of this white over here to the black over here with our transition in between. But what's cool about this material is that we can use pretty much any kind of input for this mask value here. I could paint a texture for the input mask value. I could use vertex colors that I painted in my mesh creation software or right in Unreal itself. I could use a time transition. In fact, let me go ahead and do that now. I'm just going to copy and paste some nodes in here. So I'll take my texture coordinate mask and I'm going to take time multiplied by, let's multiply it by 0.5. 0.02 is pretty slow. And now we're going to take our mask here, our UV coordinate mask, and plug that in. And what you can see here, when we're adding time to our UV coordinate mask, is that I've got this effect where my gradient is sliding back and forth. So if I plug this in instead, now you can see I've got this animated transition where I'm swiping from brick to stucco and back again. So that's kind of an interesting effect. Probably not something you would use every day, but at least it lets you see how that transition can work. And then instead of just using like a gradient here like I'm doing, you could also use a texture. So let's bring in just a regular kind of noise mask texture here, and we'll take our UV coordinates and multiply them, and then pass our UV coordinates in like this and wire our texture in. And now you can see instead of a smooth gradient, we kind of get this gradient that dissolves based on the black and white values of our mask texture. And we can just wire this directly and we don't need to go through this crazy animated time. But now you can see I've painted this mask texture with various shades of black and white, and it allows us to control where the stucco is applied and where the stucco has been stripped off to show the bricks underneath. All right, so you can use all kinds of different inputs. You know, you can create animation with time. You could use vertex colors. You could use a sample mask, but that all plugs into this pin down here. And then we're able to create those two different masks and blend between our bricks and our stucco. So that's a pretty cool technique. All kinds of different ways you can use to control where the stucco shows up, where the brick shows up. Now, I'm usually a proponent of packing textures together. So if you wanted to take this a step further, this is a little bit of an expensive shader because we're sampling 6 different textures. So you could take your brick material and your stucco material and pack them into just 2 textures instead. I'll link another video right here that talks about how to pack things together into two textures. And that would cut down your texture sample count here from 6 down to 4, which would be a pretty good optimization. I just didn't do that in today's video because I want it to be a little bit simpler to follow. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that tutorial. We'll switch over to Unity now, and I'll show you how to do the same thing there. All right, so here we are in Unity, and I've imported the same textures here and created the same shader as well. So if we take a look at the textures here, here is the Stucco diffuse texture. You can see I've got it set to sRGB there. Here's the Stucco normal map. I got it set to the texture type normal map. And for the mask map, I have sRGB set to off. And then for the bricks texture, here's the albedo, sRGB, normal map set to normal map, and mask map set with sRGB off. All right, let's take a look at the shader really quickly. So here's our brick shader, and we have all of the textures. Here is the color texture for the bricks, the color texture for the stucco. Here are the normal maps for the bricks and stucco, and then here are the mask map textures for the bricks and stucco. If we come up here to the top, we can take a look at, so here's the diffuse texture, and we're blending between the diffuse texture and the sort of the grout or mortar color here. We're blending between that based on the mask that we're creating down below, and I'll show you that in a minute. Then for the normal maps, here is our brick normal map and our stucco normal map. And we're combining them two together with the normal blend mode set to reoriented. And then we're blending between those two with a lerp value of 0.85. And the reason that we're doing that again is so that we can get just a little bit of the brick normal introduced into the stucco, just like we did in Unreal. And then we blend between sort of that combined normal and the brick normal with our mask that I'm going to show you in just a minute again. Also notice that the textures that are representing the stucco color, the stucco normal, and the stucco mask texture, I'm multiplying the UVs here by 6. And that's because of that difference that we saw in Quixel Bridge, where the stucco textures are meant to be applied to 0.35 of a meter, and the brick textures are applied to a 2 meter area. All right, so let's take a look at the mask that we're generating. Just for now, I'm gonna grab our UV coordinate gradient here and plug that in instead, so just so our preview stops animating. So here you can see I've got the UV coordinate mask, and it's generating this nice edge transition between the bricks and the stucco. So the way that we're doing that is we have a float value here of negative 0.5. We're multiplying that by 2. And this 2 value is the one that we could expose if we wanted to. If I set this to 1, you can see it kind of shifts over there. Set it to 8. It kind of just controls where along the gradient we're putting the transition. And with a value of 2, it puts it right in the middle there. So we blend between these values here and our height value. So this is the mask texture for the bricks. So we take the green channel of that, which is our height, and we plug it into our lerp here, which gives us this value, or this mask here, which allows our height to influence where that transition is happening. And that's just so the stucco gets applied to the highest parts of the brick first and doesn't get applied down in the cracks and crevices until it advances a little bit further. Then we increase the contrast of this mask using this method here. So we're lerping between negative 15 and positive 15 based on that incoming mask. And we're also lerping between negative 15 and positive 10, which means we get 2 masks in one, just using one lerp. So here you can see the 2 masks, one in the red channel and one in the green channel. The red channel one is slightly larger, or slightly more advanced along the gradient. than the green channel one. So we use the green channel one here as our mask to blend between all of the different textures. So the diffuse textures are blending using that green channel. The normal map textures are blending using that green channel, and also the mask map textures are blending using that green channel mask. And then with our red channel, we take the red channel and subtract the green channel, which gives us the difference here. And this is where that sort of leading edge grout or mortar gets applied. And so we saturate the value of that and then come up here and use that to blend between this mortar color that we've chosen and the ambient or the albedo or diffuse texture. So that gives us something like this. And then we blend between that and the diffuse texture of our stucco, which looks like this. So the result that we see here has that kind of mortar or grout underneath the stucco that acts as a transition between the bricks and the stucco. So that's pretty cool. And then if we take a look at the shader in the scene, we're getting the brick material. Let's switch back and hit save. And then we have the brick and the stucco, and you can see that there's that nice transition in between them. Now, just like we did in Unreal, the input value that we have down here at the bottom, we can control this input with all kinds of different things. So right now we're just using the UV coordinate gradient, but we can also input vertex colors here. We can input a texture value here, like this, for example. So now we get the stucco in the places where the mask is white. And we can even animate this just like we did before. So if I save this, so now you can see that our stucco is kind of increasing. And then if we wait just a minute, we'll see it also dissolve away. All right, so that's our tutorial for today. Hope you enjoyed this one and that you can use the bricks and stucco technique to make your buildings look a little bit more dynamic and control where in the scene your stucco is getting applied versus where the underlying bricks are showing through. This is a cool technique that can, just give a little bit more life to your environment and help things feel worn and also help them feel a little bit more unique. If you use the vertex painting technique for this, you're able to put these worn areas in different places on different instances, so not every wall section will look the same. And it's a really good way of kind of breaking up repetition and making certain areas feel worn and other areas feel less worn. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it and have a great week.